You know those two guys from work who won't shut up about football, but are pretty damn entertaining? Well, they decided to buy a couple microphones. And with that, we welcome you to the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast, where Justin Adams and Martin Cheney wrangle over everything college football and NFL. Bold predictions, hot takes, and live game reactions. This is Cheesy Corn Sports. And now, here's your hosts, Justin and Martin.
Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday morning. Hope everybody's doing well. This is the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast, as most of you may already know. And yeah, I'm taking over running the show today for Mr. Cheney. It's my co-host, Mr. Martin Cheney. How you doing today, brother?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Feeling rested, rejuvenated, and ready to rock and roll on this NFL Sunday. Hopefully, we can get some fantasy questions answered for y'all. Maybe get some betting picks that y'all may like to get down, and then yeah, hopefully we'll win your week in fantasy. We'll see how it goes.
Yes, sir.
First things first, man. I just give a brief kind of overview of how we want to. A few topics we're going to touch on today. We're going to touch on some, of course, start sit lineup questions. So if you do have any lineup questions, please bring them up in the chat and we will answer them in order. We'll get into, like I said, some betting picks. Each one of us has a parlay that we picked out. And then we're going to give our streamer of the week, which is going to be somebody, in case you're in a bad situation, should be rostered in less than 50% of leagues, that you should be able to go pick up on the waiver wire and put on your in your flex spot, your lineup, wherever you need them. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and touch, as we normally do, on the college football action here that we had yesterday. I know specifically you were able to watch the USC UCLA game. So is there anything that you want to touch on from that one, since I wasn't able to watch that one?
Yeah. Caleb Williams, he's that guy. Caleb Williams is so damn talented. And that USC offense, when it hums, it hums. Jordan Addison very well could be one of the top receivers taken in this year's draft. He's got the talent for it. He has that nose for getting open in the downfield. Not a discredit to UCLA either. Dorian Thompson-Robinson hurt his hand pretty early on in the game, and yet he stuck through it. Ended up going for 6 total touchdowns. Did throw a few picks, including the one at the very end, but you could tell he was in some serious pain. But he gutted it through, and that he has the passion and the drive of a champion for sure. Just not sure he's on the right team to really go all the way for that. But if both of those teams are any indication of what the Big Ten is gaining, the Pac-12 could be looking at an even bigger loss than previously thought.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see, well, one of the two Big Ten teams, or one of the two Big 12 teams that's going to the SEC. One of them is struggling, and one of them's playing well. So Oklahoma seems to be kind of in a I don't know, they're just kind of in a little bit of a middle ground from where they normally are. They're not bad, but they're not necessarily good. I don't know if Brett Venables is the right fit there, but Texas is doing well. They're recruiting well, obviously, but as you said, it looks like as previously thought, the Big Ten was getting the weaker two of the expansion, and it's looking like they might be able to get a couple of actual high-level teams in there, because USC is one of those schools. They're a blue blood program, so if they start winning some games, they can recruit with the best of them. I mean, they have a big advantage being in SoCal. There's a lot of people who want to go out there. The weather and stuff like that. They don't have to play in cold weather necessarily much in the home games, at least. Now that going to the Big Ten, they'll have to play in some cold weather games. But it's overall, it's been pretty easy to recruit to USC just based on their history and location.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. It's going to be interesting to see how those teams continue to grow over this year. Well, this year's almost over into next year before the 2024 actual expansion goes down.
Mhm.
Um, Kind of like you alluded to, Caleb Williams, absolute stud, and then you got Jordan Addison, who's probably going to be, well, for all intents and purposes, he was to me the second best receiver in this upcoming rookie class. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, with his nagging hamstring injury, I'm just kind of like, when is he going to be able to come back and play, and at what point does he kind of fall in that ladder of the talent pool out of this class? Um but yeah, I kind of looked at the highlights and stuff like that. It was really, really impressive. I mean, they got no bit of defense, but it's been, um I touched on it last week, that game where at halftime he was just lighting the fire under his team at on the sidelines 2 weeks ago. And from then on, that team has just been playing out of their minds. That shows a lot of leadership from Caleb Williams. But man, the transfer portal's been good to a lot of people this year.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
a-
Yes, it has.
all right. So next up, we'll touch on just kind of the Georgia Kentucky game real briefly. Only reason I want to touch on this one is because Georgia did not really control that game yet again. What I'm seeing from Georgia is a lot of inconsistencies when they're trying to finish drives. It happened against Missouri. It happened against drawing a blank on who they almost lost to. Was it Georgia? One of the small schools that they lost to. They came out in that game and they were kicking field goal after field goal. They came out against Missouri. They basically didn't score a touchdown until the very end of the game, the one that sealed it. And then against Kentucky, they came out with 9 points in the first half. They scored a touchdown in the third quarter. That was it. That was all the scoring. So they had 3 field goals and a touchdown. Um, Kentucky actually, well, Georgia's lucky because Kentucky was driving. It was 3-0, and Kentucky was driving. They're within the 15-yard line. Will Levis went down hurt, so they had to bring up the backup quarterback in, and they couldn't finish that drive off. And then when Will Levis came back in, he was kind of hampered. It was his toe. I believe he had a pre-existing toe injury coming into that game, so it was kind of that. But yeah, so we'll go into the Ohio State Maryland game. We'll touch on that one real quick.
Okay.
Did you watch any of the Georgia Kentucky game? Anything you want to touch on
I
that
did. So
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
actually took Kentucky plus 22.5. Worked out for
Nice.
me. I thought that was just too much points for an
That's a
offense that
big
had
spread.
for a Georgia offense that just hasn't really done much these past couple weeks. It was kind of a strange day for the entire top four. Actually, just a lot of the top 10, really. You saw a lot of one-score games. Like the Ohio State game would have been one score had they not scored on the last play of the game there.
Yeah.
Michigan got scared by Illinois. TCU had a crazy ending with Baylor. Trying to think, I mean, the only ones that really were locked in was Alabama and LSU, but that's just because of the opponents they faced. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like Alabama played Austin Peay or Pay.
Yep.
I don't know how to fucking say it. I've never heard of them.
I don't either.
and then you had LSU playing UAB, who up until a couple of years ago didn't even have a football program. So like it really draws me to kind of back the Big Ten in the whole, which Power 5 conference is better, because at this time of year, you're expecting all the conference powerhouses to go against each other. And yet you have the most exciting game from the SEC was Georgia scoring 16 points. You know what I mean? Like, one thing I will say about Will Levis, though, is he is such a raw prospect. His arm talent is unbelievable.
It is.
he's got to limit the turnovers. And I could see him going in the second, third round to a team that has an older quarterback that with the right coaching can really develop him into a serviceable starter in the NFL. Bridging over into that Ohio State game, Taulia Tagovailoa, the best thing he could have done was transfer from Alabama to a school where he can really make his game himself. He is tremendously athletic. He did I think he got hurt on the last play as well. So, hope he's doing okay as well. But he went toe to toe with one, if not the best team in the country.
Yep.
And they were down by a couple touchdowns and they came storming back. So good on them. I do know Ohio State running back Henderson did get hurt, so they were on their second string there. But I mean, second string for Ohio State is a lot of teams' first strings as well. So yeah, good on them. Michigan, they kind of just did what they normally do. Not a lot of passing. One of the top defenses in the country. Blake Corum did get hurt in this one.
Yep.
He came back for like one play and he couldn't go. I think it was his knee. We'll have to monitor that as well.
Yeah. To your point in the Ohio State game, yeah, Talia. If I'm saying that right, I always say Talia. I feel like I'm talking about like Towel from fucking what was that show? South Park or some shit?
Yeah.
Towley.
Yeah.
But it's the guy is like he's really, really good at moments and he's really, really bad at moments. It's just the inconsistency, but I mean, he steps up. He seems to step up big in big games and big moments. If he could be more consistent, this Maryland team, I mean, I remember Maryland a year ago when he came onto the scene his freshman year. Maryland was a sleeper team they were talking about. But it was just the inconsistencies were there. But I mean, he had an absolutely phenomenal game yesterday. Again, Ohio State down injury after injury. They can't buy a break right now. They're already down Jackson Smith and Jigba, as we alluded to earlier. And now Travion Henderson goes down. So Illinois, Michigan, like I said last week, man, I'm not really sold on Michigan as a top 4 team, as a playoff team all around. They do have good defense, but that offense is so one-dimensional that now if Blake Corum's out, everybody's kind of like, well, now what? I mean, they do have a good stable of running backs, but this team has struggled against lesser teams, and it's taken Blake Corum that level of talent to win them these games. And as we saw yesterday, if it wasn't for them having a late field goal, I think it was a field goal, they would have lost this game. Illinois was in pretty much control of this game throughout. JJ McCarthy he's not good enough to be able to throw the ball, sling the rock when they're in a position like this where it's a close game and they need to start throwing the ball. It's just if they get down, let's say they get down big, which is a big possibility in the playoff. Let's say they get down 2 scores in the playoff and they just have to resort to throwing the football. They're not going to be able to do that. So to me, that's just way too one-dimensional to be able to win. Because with Ohio State, you see that they can throw the ball, they can run the ball. With Georgia, they can throw the ball sometimes, but I believe they're a better passing team when they need to be than Michigan. But they can run the ball. So I think that's why I always have seen Ohio State as a more complete team when healthy than the other teams. And we still are intertwined in the TCU magic as well, which struck again yesterday. And I'm telling you, that ending had me nervous as hell. Baylor fans are ready to storm on that field. Yeah. The composure of everybody in that situation, not just the kicker, but the composure of the entire special teams unit, Because you have to think if they run out there, they get a penalty. That's game. 10-second
Yep.
runoff, game's over. The composure to be able to run the ball there, run that field goal unit out there, and get that kickoff as time expired. Essentially, that was fun to watch. And it's just the cold-blooded veins in that kicker to just go out there and just drill that on the road, looking right into the TCU crowd out in the distance. And just when it went through and they went crazy, man, it's hard not to root for this TCU team, man. They're a fun team to watch. And I see a lot of people like, yesterday I was just browsing around Twitter. I see people hating on TCU if they're not legit. I'm like, people are never happy. Like, you're tired of seeing the same 4 teams in there every year.
Never.
But yet you're complaining because you don't think TCU's good enough because they're not one of those normal Big Four schools that are in the top 4. So like, you can't have it both ways, like one or the other. But to me, as long as TCU keeps winning, they're getting the job done. Guess who didn't get the job done? Tennessee.
Yeah. Could you imagine if Spencer Rattler played like that his entire college career? Like, that was the first time I've ever seen him like actually live up to the hype of his high school recruitment. But he played, what do you have, 6 passing touchdowns?
6 touchdowns, man.
God, dude, like, I mean, I'm happy for him. I thought he was tremendous talent coming out of Pinnacle High School right here in Phoenix. He's arrogant. I'll give him that. If you ever seen him on QB1 on Netflix, like, he's arrogant as all hell, but he's talented. The arrogance comes from somewhere, right? And that's usually how it goes, right? These kids get told they're the best football player growing up. They get told that consistently all their lives. Some of them buy into it and they believe it. They're so used to being the best player in the room. And then they reach that next stage where you have 90 players, or however big a college roster is. You have all those players that have gone 18 years of being told they're the best in the room. And now they're all in the same room. So, and that's really where resiliency, coachability, and work ethic really, really comes into play. And that's where you see a lot of the top recruits fizzle out because they couldn't take the competitiveness or the competition. Tate Martell example. And then you see some other guys that were like 3 stars, like Lamar Jackson, rise to the occasion and go win a Heisman.
Yep.
So
yeah. With Spencer Rattler, the thing that frustrated me the most about him was how he handled the whole Oklahoma situation. So it was like, instead, I mean, you see a lot of these QBs nowadays, and what they'll do is, like, if they're replaced, benched for somebody who's performing better, a lot of these QBs now have the presence of mind to be like, you know what, I want what's best for this team, so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to rally behind them. I'm going to root for them. I'm going to kind of be a leader, right? To me, he's never shown the ability to be a leader, right? That's where the ball drops with Spencer Rattler. Yes, he has all the talent in the world. But when he's had a chance to step up and lead, I have not seen him do that. And that's what really irks me about Spencer Rattler and why it's been so hard for me to root for him. Just because of how we all know how he handled that Oklahoma situation. And to me, that was pretty telling, because at that point, when you're a starting quarterback at university like Oklahoma, you have to have that leadership ability by then. It's not one of those things that you develop over the course of your college career. And that's why he got benched. I mean, this man went from the projected first overall pick in the draft to being benched. And a lot of it had to be his attitude, because that trickles down into your play when you're getting frustrated for whatever reason and you got a bad attitude. It's gonna spill over into your play a little bit, because quarterback is such a mental game, and frustration is one way to get into the quarterback's head the most and really make him not perform. So yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a game by him. And I mean, Tennessee, the pass defense, that's what we talked about before, got completely exposed by a South Carolina team that's good. I mean, 7-4, but to be and actually, you know, Tennessee had this game. The final score was 63-38. Tennessee had this score 34 or 31-34 at one point.
Yeah.
And then South Carolina just proceeds to roll off 28 unanswered. And Tennessee was lucky that they got a touchdown in the very, very ending of it. A minute left in the fourth quarter, they got some kind of garbage time touchdown. Otherwise, then it's 63-31. So
Yeah.
it's just like one of those things. It's like, yeah, it's my dog. Can you hear my dog in the background?
Hey, Gunner is very quiet. Good morning, Gunner.
He's barking at something out there. He just doesn't ever stop.
That's funny.
But yeah, so yeah, it was impressive performance by South Carolina and Tennessee. I mean, you got to think, right? Tennessee goes out there and let's say they beat Baylor. Everybody's gonna be like, well, they took care of business. TCU does it, and it's like, yeah, they're gonna get destroyed in the playoff. Like, it's the narratives, the SEC versus the Big 12 teams, and I'm glad Tennessee lost because I just don't want anybody to sneak in and be able to jump TCU. If TCU wins out, I want them in 100%.
Yeah.
Let's just have pure anarchy and let's just have TCU make a run at it.
Got a question for you here.
Yeah,
Do
go
you
ahead.
think that Spencer Rattler salvaged any draft stock this season? Not just this game. Obviously, this game would have helped a lot, but like this season in general.
Yeah, I do. Because I think because the narrative about him was so bad, when he had that dust up at Oklahoma, just the fact that he's been out of the negative press to me is enough to boost him up, plus his play. So he's been playing well. He's stayed out of the limelight in a negative way. To me, that's enough to kind of repair his image, enough to get him to where, because you got to think at the end of the day, Cleveland Browns looking at you, teams will go talent over certain things if they're desperate enough. So all they'll need to do to convince their GM, let's say a coach wants him, all he'll need to be able to do is convince his GM that, like, hey, look at the talent. I mean, he's clearly matured. He stayed out of the negative press.
Yep.
You know, the entire year he's really went under the radar, and I mean that's going to be enough to be able to have a team at least take a flyer on him. But and just the fact that he was a former top overall, prospect, projected number 1 pick overall, preseason, mind you, but that's the talent that he has. So it's teams somebody's going to reach for him at some point in the draft.
What are you thinking, like 3rd, 4th round?
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to look through at the number of teams that need a QB and that absolutely need a QB. But if not, he's going to go to one of these teams that has a style similar to them, Arizona, where their starting quarterback has the same kind of style. So that way it's a smooth transition into the backup. That's also important, except in Arizona, because Kyler Murray's so bad. Colt McCoy just comes out and runs the offense his own way anyways. But yeah, so I think it'll be a team like that. Unless the team just really, really needs a quarterback and they haven't been able to draft one and get one they need, then that'll be the one that'll probably reach on him. Otherwise, I think he'll go in probably the third round.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and move over to some of the NFL games here. We'll go ahead and start with the, very interesting game for not a lot of the reasons we expected and 3 weeks ago, and a game that we wouldn't have thought was interesting 3 weeks ago. What makes this game interesting, of course, the resurgence or surgence of Justin Fields. But also a lot on the line here for the Falcons because they still have a outsider shot at at kind of sneaking in the playoff at some point. So but they have to win. The Bears are basically, they're toast, but Falcons being where they're at, in their standings, they got a shot. So what are your thoughts on this game? The spread right now is Atlanta -3. Um, to me, it's a spread I'm staying away from if I'm betting on it, but I'm not. I'm staying far away from this one. But if I had to bet, I would take, just because of the desperation factor, I would do Atlanta -3.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip the table here. I'm gonna go Chicago +3. They've done a good job of actually competing in a lot of their games this year.
Mhm.
Doesn't really matter who the opponent really is. So yeah, give me Chicago +3. Justin Fields has done a great job of making stuff happen. I think you and me and we're talking, saying this is an ad lib offense, right?
Mhm.
And so he's doing a great job of really just putting the team on his back. Shout out, Greg Jennings, YouTube legend.
Definition, put the team on my back, though.
No, in all reality, he's doing a good job of doing exactly that. Like his rushing touchdown last week, completely out. He was rolling to the right. He was about to get sacked, broke it, turned back left, lowered his shoulder, got into the end zone.
Yep.
And it's plays like that that really show you, like, he's going to go through his reads. If it's not there, which a lot of times it's not, he said, "Fuck this, I'm going to go make a play myself." And against this Atlanta defense that has just been downright horrendous, with AJ Terrell being out, I don't know if he's back. AJ Terrell is really the only piece of that defense that is worth a damn to me.
Yep.
And their offense is so inconsistent. Sometimes Mariota looks like a good quarterback, and then other times he's literally on his back slinging the ball 15 yards downfield for an interception.
Yep.
I don't know. So yeah, give me Chicago +3.
Yeah. Yeah, this is such a toss-up game. Just because of, like I kind of touched on last week with Fields. Well, I talked about it to a few people at work. I don't think I touched on the show, but the way that he's running this offense is it's kind of like almost like a backyard football style.
Yes.
So it's very hard to predict week to week what we're going to get from them, because of the fact that it's just ad-libbing. And at some point, you think that some team is going to be able to figure out a formula to at least be able to limit him on the ground and force him to air the football out. He has incredible arm talent. Don't get me wrong there, but we have seen how well his offensive line plays. So it's one of those things. It's like, while it's working, great, let's go after it. It's just, at what point is this going to get figured out? Because if this worked, every team would run it. We'd have Lamar Jackson out there playing backyard football, but they still even had to build an offensive system around him. Right now, it's a lot of scrambles and ad-libbing. So I'd be interested to see, how long this can last. And again, that's why I'm very, I was high on Fields when everybody was low on him. But I feel like people are a little too high on him right now.
Yeah.
I think we need to kind of bring that back into the realm of where we're at. The truth is always somewhere in the middle, where we're actually at with him, and realize that, like, okay, like, he's finally showing his talent. Well, he's not finally showing his talent. The talent's always been there. It's been Chicago, but he's like, screw this, I'm doing my own thing. What I really want to see is when he's forced back into a game plan, and seeing if he can kind of take this momentum and throw that into a winning formula. Right now, with his offensive line, I don't think that's a possibility, though. So it's going to be a whole lot of Justin Fields scrambling and running around, which is very good for fantasy owners.
Yeah.
As we know, rushing yards with quarterbacks, dual threat QBs rule fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, right now he's the top 5 fantasy QB. you'd have to fire him up as a top 5 fantasy QB.
Yeah, he's sitting at the QB4 right now. And one thing I wanted to note here is maybe let's temper expectations on him as a real quarterback right now, right? Fantasy wise, he's the QB4. He's great. Fire him up. Could be a potential league winner for a lot of people that picked him up off waivers, or if you're in a dynasty league, your patience has paid off, kind of thing, right? But
Right.
he has, as a passer, he has gone over 200 yards once this year. They are just now finally allowing him to run as much as possible. But even then, he has been sacked at least twice in every single game this season. That offensive line is atrocious. He has been sacked more than four or more times, 5 times this season. Keep in mind, we've played 10 games, so that's half of his games. Yeah. But on the flip side, the positive side, right? Flipping to the fantasy side of it. Past 2 weeks, he has 15 carries and 13 carries, averaging 150 yards a game on both of those. Over the last, let's see here, 5 weeks, he's gone for more than 80 rushing yards 4 of those 5 times, and the only other one he didn't was 60 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. He's been a touchdown machine lately. He had 4 touchdowns last week. He had 4 touchdowns the week prior, 3 touchdowns before that. He's been tremendous. I would love to see him keep it up, especially this week against Atlanta. We'll talk about how high I think he can go a little bit deeper into the show here when we get to a new segment. But yeah, I fire up Justin Fields for the rest of the season, really.
Yep. We do have a question in the chat. Trey was asking. He said, "Morning, gents. Full PPR. Start 2: Singletary, Zeke, Michael Carter, or Eli Mitchell." What's your thoughts?
Well, I don't like Zeke because he is playing today. However, they have come out and officially said Tony Pollard will be getting more carries than Zeke.
Yeah.
I think for Zeke to turn in a good day, he's going to have to get a touchdown, like on the goal line kind of thing. Michael Carter, I was wrong about Michael Carter a couple weeks ago when I said sit him. He turned in a really good day receiving wise and all that stuff. But I'm gonna double down on it. I don't know what the Jets offense is. They're relying heavily on their defense right now to do everything for them. They are playing the Patriots today, who have a great defense. Bill Belichick knows how to beat this Jets team. I just don't see it in the cards today for Michael Carter. One thing that surprised me was how much usage Elijah Mitchell got, even with Christian McCaffrey. It was Eli Mitchell's first game back, and he just got a bunch of carries. So Eli Mitchell for me is going to be one of those starts. And with the game being moved from Buffalo out of the snow to indoor Detroit, fire up Devin Singletary as well.
That's exactly where I was going with that. Zeke being fresh off injury. I don't know what kind of workload he's going to get. You have to think Tony Pollard is going to primarily be the back there. I don't like that at all, where we're a touchdown dependent situation. And then Singletary to me is the top out of those 4. Like you said, I like the matchup, and the fact that it was moved, I think, is more beneficial to Buffalo than anybody. Because in that situation, the underdog needs as much pandemonium as possible to pull the upset. I mean, especially when you're a touchdown dog. The more messed up the circumstances, the better. So the bad weather game would have benefited the underdog, in my opinion, there. So I like Devin Singletary. I like them. I mean, I like them to get up, and then they're gonna give him a heavy dose of Singletary. Of course, they're gonna pass the ball, but Singletary also gets the passing down backs. So I like that situation overall. Again, Elijah Mitchell, surprising workload here. It doesn't look like they're trying to go away from him anytime soon. It may be a matter of they want to make sure that they keep McCaffrey fresh and healthy. And
Yeah.
I mean, why not run Elijah Mitchell when he's playing the way he is, or put him into the passing down backs? He's playing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like the matchup against Arizona. Arizona's their running backs perform above average against Arizona. So I like Elijah Mitchell there as a good flex / low end RB2. But yeah, with Michael Carter and Zeke again, the Patriots are a bad matchup to begin with for Michael Carter, let alone with not knowing what that offense is. And then secondly, I don't trust either one of them, Zeke and Michael Carter, just based on Zeke's situation. So yeah, this one's easy for me. Elijah Mitchell and Devin Singletary for sure.
Yep. Thanks for the question, Trey.
Yeah, no problem, Trey. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get into our next game. I think we said all we needed to say about the Bears game. Interesting enough.
There is one thing else I wanted to say on it.
Yeah.
With Khalil Herbert going to IR, I think David Montgomery reaches back into fantasy relevancy. I'm not sure how high his ceiling is with Justin Fields running that much. However, one of the lines that I saw on Caesars that I did like was David Montgomery, I think 17 and a half rushing attempts, which, I mean, it might sound high, but even with Khalil Herbert, back when they were in their little timeshare, David Montgomery was consistently getting 14, 15 carries a game. So feed him a couple more. He's getting that line, no problem, especially against this Atlanta defense. I think the Bears are going to run all over Atlanta.
Yeah. I think Montgomery has a potential to be a top 10 back this week.
Yeah.
Honestly. So I also think you're firing him up. God, it pains me that Khalil Herbert went down right when he was starting to take over. I'm so hurt by that.
Salvaged my season in my redraft league.
Man. But yeah, so that one hurts. But David Montgomery, honestly, David Montgomery he's not exciting to me. He doesn't excite me.
He's not. He's not a sexy pick at all.
He's not. He's limited upside, especially with Fields running the ball. So that's another thing too. It's just knowing it's a potential option that he's going to cut into a lot of Montgomery's touches by running the ball so much.
Yeah.
But who knows? Because it could end up like a Baltimore situation with Lamar, or they could find ways to utilize them that'll, kind of open them up for some more opportunities. But yeah, I think he's definitely top 15 this week. But yeah, not a sexy pick whatsoever. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get into the Cleveland Buffalo game again. We touched on this earlier. Line is Cleveland plus. Well, it looks like now it's moved to -8 is what I'm seeing, but I don't know if this is fully up to date. But one showing +7.5, one showing -8. So I think probably 8 would be the accurate one because I would imagine the spread's getting bet Buffalo's direction. But
I'm showing 8 points.
Yeah. That makes sense. So the line's moved a point. So, yeah, with this one, people may think the Bills are some kind of flawed team or something like that. They're not. They were the victim of the wildest game I've ever seen last week. I think all of us have ever seen, with the greatest catch in NFL history to keep that game alive.
Yeah.
Everything that could go wrong had to go wrong in that game for them to lose, and they lost. But to me, Buffalo still best team in the league. Josh Allen, best quarterback in the league. But Brissett Brissett's not going to get it done. We know Brissett's a good game manager. Kareem Hunt you can't even play him. He's not even playable in fantasy right now. That's what I was gonna say. Like, if you have Kareem Hunt on your team, I'm benching him. Like, give me anybody but Kareem Hunt there.
I would if I could.
Oh, you're in that situation?
I have Travis Etienne and Rashad White on bye this week in our league. So I traded for Brian Robinson because I think against Houston he'll have a
Everybody,
day.
everybody has a great day against Houston. Fire up
and
any
yeah.
running backs against Houston.
I've been holding on to Kareem Hunt in hopes that he goes to a new team this offseason and actually becomes relevant. I'm not happy that I have to use him this week. Luckily, the person I am playing is in last in the league. So hopefully the rest of my team can just kind of shoulder the load. I started Christian Watson on Thursday, got me 21.5. Thank you, Mr. Touchdown Dependency. And yeah, it's working out.
Yeah. I mean, to me, shit. With Kareem Hunt, like, I'm open to firing up fucking. Sorry, pardon my French, but I'm open to firing up like Kyron Williams around the same time I'm willing to fire him up.
I like Kyron Williams this week, actually.
Well, yeah, me too. We'll get into that here when we get to that game. Anything to touch on Cleveland Buffalo? Pretty much the same old same. Diggs is going to go off.
The biggest note is that it moved to Detroit, so now they're indoors. Weather's no longer a factor. Every piece on paper that makes this game fantasy relevant is now back in play. Stephon Diggs doesn't have to run through snow on his routes. Devin Singletary is literally listed at like 5'7", so at least he'll be able to see now. And Josh Allen won't have fucking elbow tendonitis because the cold is tightening his ligaments up.
Man, when he went lowered his shoulder with that bad elbow, that was I got really scared that I'm like, Josh Allen's going to put himself out for the season.
Yeah, man, you got to make a business decision every now and then, you know.
But he's so tough, man. He just pops right back up. All right, cool. So we'll get over to Philly and Indy. This is an interesting game to me. I'll go ahead and get your thoughts on it.
Hold on here. Let me pull it up here.
Post our link.
Philly and Indy. So Philly went out and they signed Ndamukong Suh.
Oh yeah, baby, go Big Red.
And Linval Joseph. I think these signs were great if we're back in 2015.
Hey.
What do you want me to say? They're old. Like how old is Ndamukong Suh?
35.
Is he actually?
Yeah.
35. Yeah. Look at that.
I know my Huskers. All right.
And like, I'm happy for him, but like, maybe they'll be able to shore up a little bit because Washington was actually able to run all over the Philly defense. I don't think Indianapolis is going to have a lot of success throwing the ball with that secondary. You know, Bradbury, Darius Slay, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, like they have one of the best secondaries. Probably, if I had to really break it down, the best secondary in football.
Yeah.
And so coming from a Indy attacking Philly standpoint, I think Jonathan Taylor is the way to go. I think with Jeff Saturday, I think he's very much a player's coach. You know, just coming from that organization, a lot of those guys on that team, a lot of the young guys, they grew up watching Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday and that Indy offense. So now having the privilege of having Jeff Saturday be their coach. Jeff Saturday doesn't call the plays, by the way. Like I think people need to realize that not every head coach has play calling duties on their team. So I think he's there to motivate that O-line. They definitely got a better push last week than they have in previous weeks. Matt Ryan, as bad as he is a better quarterback than Sam Ehlinger. So putting him back in there was good for Michael Pittman and his stock. So fantasy wise, I don't think Pittman's going to have that great of a day, being shadowed by Slay and Bradbury and all them. I do think Jonathan Taylor will have a decent day. I know not necessarily a hot take to say that the first overall running back taken in this year's draft is going to have a decent day, but still.
Yeah.
I'll let you touch on Philly. If there was anything else you wanted to say on Indy as well.
No, I think for me, again, Philly, I kind of alluded to it the previous weeks. I just that had me just not completely sold on them. Now, one of the things for me is yes, they Sue, which makes me want to root for them. But then also you lose Dallas Goedert, and that's such a big blow. Dallas Goedert was a main cog in that offense, and without him, I'm just curious to see, how that offense takes shape. Having him is like the Chiefs having Kelsey, right? He's of course not the same talent as Kelsey, but I mean he's a damn good tight end. And having him there to be able to check the ball down to and go to in the red zone and go to when you need a sure-handed first down is huge for them. So that to me is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Again, I want to root for Ndamukong Suh. So naturally, and what about Ndamukong Suh? What about this move for Ndamukong Suh? I think he tweeted out like, "You're telling me I can come in and play half a season, make a run for a title, and get paid a mills or a mill, however much he got paid." Like it's like he's sitting here relaxing. He only has to go out there and tear up his body for half a season. He doesn't even have to go out there for a full season. Gets to go out there and compete and make $1 million. I love it for Sue. To me, Ndamukong Suh is still like, I get that he's 35, right? But Ndamukong Suh, you don't need him to be the dominant force that he was. What you need him to be is a solid gap sound player that can fill in that run gap and just plug that hole. He's a big body. He knows how to play fundamental football. He knows how to stay gap sound. He's going to be able to crash in that hole and stop the run. So that's what they need. They needed some big bodies on that D line. And the dude's still talented. I don't care what anybody says. Like, Ndamukong Suh, an old Ndamukong Suh is still better than a lot of defensive linemen. So I could be a little biased though. That might be a thing, but yeah. So the Colts, I'm finding them very easy to root for because of Jeff Saturday. I loved how Jeff Saturday came out in that opening press conference. It was like, hey, listen, like I've played with Hall of Famers. I was a 2-time Pro Bowler or 2-time champion, Pro Bowler champion, whatever it was. He's like, it's either going to work or it's not, but we're going to find out, And I like the realistic qualities about him.
Sure. Absolutely.
I still think that the Eagles win this game. We do have a question. So he says, Edward says, choose one running back, one flex. Okay. DJ Moore, Rondale Moore, Brian Robinson, Swift, or Mooney, full PPR. Which it does.
Is Marquise Brown back?
Marquise Brown is.
I saw him practicing. I just don't know.
I saw him practicing. I don't know the official word on him. But I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about firing him up.
So he's not actually activated from the IR yet. At this current point in time, I'm starting Brian Robinson and Rondale Moore. Brian Robinson against Houston. Look, if he can't get it done against Houston, like you might as well just cut him at this point, right? But no, I think Brian Robinson will do good against Houston. That interior line defense on Houston still needs some work. And yeah, Washington just I think Taylor Heineke is a lot better of a game manager when the ground game is working. So fire up Brian Robinson for your running back. And if Marquise Brown is not playing, give me Rondale Moore. If he is playing, who does Carolina have this week?
They have Baltimore.
Yeah, never mind. Forget that. Give me Darnell Mooney.
Yeah. So my two are actually going to be Darnell Mooney and hold on, where is it? Swift.
Okay.
My only thing about Brian Robinson is Antonio Gibson has been taking more and more of the workload there. Albeit against a horrible matchup this week, the dude could very well go off too. I think he could have two of them go off. I don't normally, like under normal circumstances, I really don't trust Swift that much.
Yeah.
But I think, I think between him and Jamal Williams, they're going to get touches, and this seems like a flex situation. So I'm fine firing up Jamal Williams in my flex. Again, I don't fault you for firing up Brian Robinson. It's just Gibson has been taking over a little bit more of that. So with the matchup, I have no issue going either Robinson or Swift. Me personally, I'm going Swift. Like they're both in great matchups.
I think Swift is the better talent. This Giants
it's
defense
just a frustrating. Well, that backfield's just been frustrating.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't. So Mooney, we're locked in on Mooney, and at that point, it's Brian Robinson versus Swift, and I'm gonna go kind of side with you on that one then, so we can give a consensus answer because again, it's such a toss up for me, and as a Texans fan, any running back who goes against the Texans has a shot to go over 100. I don't care if you're a starter, a backup, or third string.
Robinson did have 26 carries against Philly.
Yeah. I just think overall touches and first down. The most important stat in fantasy is actually first down touches.
Yeah.
And he's been getting the majority of the first down touches. And the thing I don't like is his target share. It's inconsistent. He'll vary anywhere from 8 to 3 targets.
Yeah.
I think last week, I don't know how many he ended up having last week, but I know it was low.
Last week the big thing for him was the carries.
What did he have? Like 12, 13?
Carries? He had 26.
He had 26 rushes last week? No, I'm talking about Gibson.
Oh, Gibson. Let me look.
Yeah, I was just talking about
he had 14
a couple of months
last week.
Okay,
and they ran the ball 40 times.
That's wild. So, I mean, I would imagine they're going to come out and do a whole lot of the same this week.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you? This is the perfect.
It worked. You knocked off the undefeated team in the league.
Well, not only that, it worked, and you're in a better matchup against a worse running defense this week.
But I would fire up both Gibson and Robinson this week.
Well, the thing, a note I saw on Gibson is that he's the 15th, surprisingly, the 15th most fantasy points over the past like 5 weeks for running backs. When J.D. McKissick when J.D. McKissick went out, he missed. I think was it last week? He missed the last bit of the first half with an injury. And then 9 carries inside the 5, which is huge. Goal line touches are super important. I kind of took some notes. I saw this somewhere. I can't remember. And then, of course, they're playing against the Texans. So I kind of have a running back usage chart here of the Commanders. And it was interesting. I was looking at this yesterday, and it looks like when they're in the early downs, it's 20 to 25 split between the two. Gibson, Robinson. Goal line 5 and 3, short yardage Brian Robinson, they're actually going to him in the short yardage situations down the field. Third downs, Gibson. That's big
Yeah.
too. Having him on third downs, the passing downs, 2-minute drills. Though it's surprising when you have a different balance between third downs and 2-minute drill back, because typically your third down back is also your back during the 2-minute drill because they're there for the passing down. So again, the split is pretty even. I do think that Brian Robinson gets the majority of the carries down the field, but I do also think that Gibson might get the love in the red zone. So it's them two. I mean, they got to be ranked like 14, 15 if you're ranking them.
Yeah.
Similar to like Keenan Allen's and Mike Williams. Like, how do you rank those two? But yeah, that was just an interesting note I saw yesterday on that running back usage in that backfield. Something to pay attention to. But I mean, of course, I don't think they're going away from Brian Robinson anytime soon. It's their
I
young
wouldn't think
rookie
so.
back. So it's probably just going to be a running back by committee. Just rotate him, find the hot hand, and go. And then Cowan 0395 said, "What underdog money lines do y'all like?"
Well, let's take a look here. Couple
I've already-
underdogs that I do like money line. I like the Rams at plus 115 over the Saints. I think Allen Robinson is going to step into this wide receiver one role without Cooper Kupp, and I think he's going to do just fine. Why? Because we've seen him be a wide receiver one before, and that offense needs to find an identity. And I think Allen Robinson is the man for the job because there's no one else really to do it. I like the
Yep.
Bears over the Falcons for a lot of the same reasons we touched on earlier. And maybe the Raiders over the Broncos.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say Raiders over Broncos.
Yeah.
I'll put Raiders over Broncos as my top. And then probably, man, some of these lines are so steep.
Yeah, they are.
Jets over Patriots, and Chicago over Atlanta. I mean, as much as I said Atlanta could win that game because they're desperate, that's very easily an upset game potential for them. So I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the Rams Saints. The Saints are such a wild card, man. So I would and so are the Rams right now. But yeah, those are my three. I would say my top one is probably we both definitely agree on Chicago, Atlanta. But yeah, Raiders over the Broncos just because the Broncos are horrible right now. I mean, I know the Raiders are bad, but Devontae Adams.
Yeah, you
then
can never count your team out as long as
Well,
you have Devontae
they're
Adams.
down Sutton. So, you know what I'm saying? So, biggest upset of the week. Conrad, he's asking for who we think is the biggest upset of the week. If I had to go the biggest upset of the week, I'm looking at, dare I say it, Indy over Philly.
Ooh.
Because
Okay.
I'm going lines that are 5 or more if we're talking about big upsets.
Right. I don't want to say it. Give me the Cleveland Browns over the Buffalo Bills.
Didn't just say that.
Yes.
No, Conrad. Arizona. I'm not picking Arizona.
I just want to say this. With Cleveland, they have one of the best pure running backs in the NFL, right? They got I almost said Kareem Hunt. They have Nick Chubb. Jacoby Brissett has been a very competent quarterback. And Amari Cooper has actually maintained a real good wide receiver one status, which is something I didn't expect him to do this season.
Right.
Their defense is still good. I don't know exactly where they rank on defense this year, but anytime you have Myles Garrett coming off the edge, you have one of the best O-lines in the league. You're indoors now, so the weather's not a factor. It's a neutral site game, So you're not really in the whole Bills Mafia environment anymore, right? You got, yeah, give me Cleveland. Yeah, they're sitting at plus 285 money line. If you want to sprinkle a couple things there, just to get a little spicy on the morning, you know?
I told you though, like that benefits that whole snow out, thunder, lightning, snow, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
That benefits to me. That benefits the Bills just because like you're a team like the Browns, big underdog. I mean, you're a cold weather team too, but you just want anarchy. Like
Yeah.
you want as many things to throw them off of their game as possible. And to me, that would have been that's just to me why it benefits them. Um, yeah. I I see your point there, but again, this is why it's like big underdogs. But yeah, so with Arizona, yeah, don't ask me to ever pick Arizona right now with the way they've been playing because that is that like Colt McCoy again came out there and he was poised in the pocket. He made the throws, and I mean he was money just like he was last year. So like last year, believe it or not, the passer rate, Colt McCoy's passer rating was higher than Kyler Murray's for last year
Are
in the
they going
sample
back to
size.
Kyler this week?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Last I checked. But then also if you Kyler Murray's quarterback rating last year was what? It was 102 and a half, I think. And you had Colt McCoy's was like 103 something. This Kyler Murray's passer rating is down to 85. So if we're comparing Colt McCoy's because of the sample size, if we're comparing Colt McCoy's last year to Kyler Murray this year, he's 25 points better in comparison.
Yep.
So I just don't understand like why I get Colt fun. I listen to the radio guys here for Arizona, and they're just like, if Kyler Murray's the dude talks like this, so Kyler Murray's playing him, firing him up. It's like why? I know understand why as a Cardinals fan you want him to show you something, but at what
Right.
do you just say okay? I think Colt McCoy gives us a better chance to win right now, and they have to win. They have to win. Um. So yeah, I don't know. Um, what the situation is there. I know it's going to be a heavy dose of D Hop, no matter what. It'll be interesting to see how oh my god, the gunner's still barking. Be interesting to see how that offense runs without Ertz in there. Tyler McBride, I'm just really curious to see how because he is a very good, super athletic kid,
Hmm.
and you spent second round draft capital on him. You're fucking playing him.
Yeah.
So, but uh, I think it's your buddy Chris. I think it's Chris
Hmm.
C. Owen. Yeah, he said, I know Cheney's thoughts, but what about Vikings over Cowboys? To me, the fact that like they only gave Dallas a point here, I think the Cowboys win that game. I think they were disrespecting them with the opening line of one. That's why it's been bet to 2.5, I think. But I don't know, man. Like that Dallas defense is tough, and if they don't do what they did last week and just start throwing the ball, like just start airing it out for no reason, um, that lost them the game. Stay within what they do, and they'll be fine. Last week they just decided they want to just start throwing the ball around the field, and they're best when they're slowing the game down. Um, when they're slowing the game down and they're controlling the pace of the game with their running game and their defense. I don't know if they just think because Zeke's out, they can't do that. I don't know what it is with them and Zeke. Like they just change everything when Zeke's out, even though Pollard is very good, as we've seen, better than Zeke, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, so just a quick note to end the Raiders Broncos thing. First off, this game is going to be a complete mess to watch, but you tell me you have Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, and then Denver has lost like 4 of their last 5, and Danger Russ has like the worst quarterback rating in the league. Like he's like 33rd, so there's some backup ahead of him probably.
Love his Subway commercial though. What a commercial.
The Danger Witch.
Yes,
I'm
it's
gonna
spicy.
go get me a Danger Witch. I hope we get sponsored. I hope we get sponsored by Subway.
He's so fucking cringy.
Dude, it's so bad. I hate him. Let's ride. So Conrad said, should Dallas consider Rush over Dak if they lose? Absolutely not. Not a chance in hell. There's no QB controversy there. It definitely is. It's easy to look at the win-loss record when they're during those games and see. But no, Dak is 5 times the quarterback that Cooper Rush will ever be. In no way was there ever a quarterback controversy that was all spun up for talk. Dak is the guy, and they don't go away from him unless he's injured and can't play.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I want to note on here, right, is it's not Dak versus Cooper Rush here, but it's the difference in play calling that the coaching staff puts out there when they have Dak versus when they have Cooper Rush.
Very conservative.
They're a lot more team-oriented.
Oh,
shit. But anyway, Dallas is a lot more team-oriented when Cooper Rush is out there. And it's because they know his ceiling of talent. It's not there. So what do? They have a healthy workload for both of their running backs. They get the ball into CeeDee Lamb's hands when the time is right. They don't force feed any particular person. Versus when you have Dak in there where they go, oh, okay, well, Dak can shoulder more of a playmaking workload. But my point is, if he doesn't have to, then don't force him to. Like, if you can call the same game with a better quarterback, your team is going to do better. Yep. Dallas still has a winning record. Yeah, I'm with you. I like them over the Vikings today. Vegas likes them over the Vikings today too. Even though the Vikings are tied, they're tied for the best record in the NFL right now, and they're underdogs.
I was actually surprised that Dallas. They only gave Dallas a point. Like I thought the spread should have been larger than that.
Yeah.
I would have been hammering that. It's -2 right now. I'm hammering that still.
Yep.
I guess if you want, we can get into a couple of our fantasy segments we had.
Let's do it.
So me and Cheney, what we did was we came up with who we think is going to be the top scorer at each position. And we brought a list of those, and then we are going to give our streamer of the week. If you're in a little bit of a pickle and you need to add somebody off of waivers, this should be somebody who's rostered in under 50% of leagues, who you can pick up and stream on the waiver wire. We'll give our reasonings for rostering them and maybe some hesitations, but first things first, go ahead and go over your positional top player from each position.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll start here with quarterback. We touched on him earlier. It's going to be Justin Fields. It's going to be Justin Fields finishing as the QB1 this week. He's done it for 2 weeks in a row. He's been a top 5 quarterback for 4 weeks in a row against an Atlanta defense who is, I think, 31st against quarterbacks in fantasy this year. Yeah. Give me Justin Fields. Give me all of the rushes. Give me 15 plus carries for him. Give me another 100-yard rushing day for him as well, with sprinkling a touchdown and then another red zone touchdown to like Cole Kmet or something like that. Give me Justin Fields QB1.
Okay, mine is going to be he's playing through an illness, so I'm hoping for the best, though. But I like the matchup, and I really don't want to ever say Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to go Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson take care of business today. I think he has a really good performance. Depending on what the illness is, they wouldn't disclose what the illness was.
Had to take a shit.
But people are really, he's playing a really bad team. And people are really overstating like his struggles, because when he struggles, he's still a top 10 fantasy quarterback. So to me, he's clearly top 5 this week, but I'm thinking I'm firing him up as my top point goal getter, as you said before with Fields. I do think Fields has the potential. I think, but like I to your point, I think because of the rushing situation and just the matchup, and he could potentially have a field day. But I also feel that same way about Lamar. To me, Lamar is the more refined, better overall QB right now with the better team around him. So give me Lamar Jackson. I'm firing him up, and then we'll go into our running backs.
Yeah. So running back for me, he is currently the RB1 on the season, and he has a tremendous matchup against a terrible defense against the running backs for fantasy. That is Austin Eckler going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, the first time they played Kansas City. Let's see, he finished as the RB4 on the season. Didn't really do much on the actual ground, but he did have 10 targets, 9 catches for 55. Since then, his rushing prowess has really gone up. There was, up until last week, he had 5 straight games where he scored a touchdown. And in 4 of those 5 games, he had a rushing and a receiving touchdown. So, yeah, give me Austin Eckler. Probably going to finish as the RB1 on the season, because I'm looking at his schedule here, and up until like the last 2 weeks, he's got all bottom half of the league matchups against the running back position. So give me Austin Eckler. Give me all the receptions, and he'll get a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown in this one.
I'm going Saquon Barkley. I'm firing up Saquon RB1.
Okay.
I'm trusting that going forward, because Saquon is just what everybody expected him to be over the last few years. With the injuries, of course, kind of killed his momentum there. But this man's just been on another planet. He's last week 35 carries, 152 yards. Was against the Texans, so everybody does it against the Texans. But I mean, 13 carries, or I'm sorry, 24 carries for 110 fantasy points. His fantasy points the last 3 weeks, 19, 18, and 15. I'm rounding up and down, and then 23 against the Texans. So the dude's just he's just not. You can't stop him right now. When he has momentum going, and right now that's opened up the pass game for the Giants, as we saw last week. If only Wan'Dale could get healthy, that'd have a little extra of an element in that offense too. But I mean, now that the Giants kind of have somewhat of a passing game going, I realize it's only one player right now, but if they can continue that momentum over into this week, Saquon, again, this is probably the best matchup he could have outside of the Texans, honestly. This is he has the potential, which is why in my parlay I have him going over 100 yards. I think he might go over 120 rushing yards and a couple touchdowns. But yeah, so give me all Saquon right now. I do have him 1, and then your pick 2 as far as like overall rankings goes, because again, both solid choices. The only thing that kills me a little bit about Saquon is just I wish he would just get a couple more targets.
Yeah.
He had 1 last week, but week before that he had 5. Week before that he had 4. His highest total in the season was week 1 at 7, where he finished as the RB1. That was the only week he finished as the RB1. So target that man, get him the football. But yeah, so, and he's been performing under, actually, the biggest thing for me is he's been performing actually under his expected fantasy points per game, which isn't typically an indicator of that's going to even get better. Those numbers are going to get better when they're playing above their expected. Those are usually in non-Saquon situations by low candidates. So I like Saquon this week. The dude's, I just think he's going to fucking go off. So good pick on your side too, though.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's move over into wide receiver. What do you got?
Yeah. So this guy has actually been pretty underwhelming in his opportunity to step up as a wide receiver one, but I still believe his fantasy ceiling is unmatched. And that is wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, T. Higgins. 6'4", you're missing Jamar Chase. So the competition for targets really shouldn't be there. He's only gone under 7 targets twice all season. That was week 1. And that blowout against Cleveland where he had 6 targets. I don't know what's going on. He has only 3 touchdowns on the season. He's been consistent. He is the wide receiver 24, so he is that low end wide receiver 2 in fantasy on the season. However, when Jamar Chase went down, we were all expecting him to go back to what he was at the end of last season, where he was, 40, 50 point games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I want. And that's what I think and that's what I'm calling for, just because he's due. He is due to go off against the Pittsburgh Steelers today. Joe Burrow did finally find his stride, which is good. Jamar Chase is still out. I think maybe at least another 1 to 2, maybe 3 weeks. So T. Higgins is definitely due. Give me a big performance out of him today.
All right, so mine is a caveat type of situation. So right now, my pick is Davante Adams, of course, but he's dealing with a rib injury, and he did practice. He was limited. He was expected to play, but what does that look like? I don't, they haven't really disclosed much of anything, letting us know, will he be limited or anything like that. So Davante is my number 1. And again, great matchup for him this week. And if he gets injured or isn't a full go or isn't able to go, Amon-Ra St. Brown for me. Again, they lost another receiver. Jameson Williams isn't back yet. We all know Amon-Ra St. Brown is target god. If only he could get some deeper targets, it would be fantastic. But in PPR leagues, the guy is an absolute monster. He is very Keenan Allen-esque as far as just being absorbing all the targets possible on that team. Again, wish he could get some more touchdowns. Wish he could get some deeper targets. His ADOT is really, really low. Not a fan of his ADOT. For those listening, it's the average depth of target. I mean, that's how many yards your route is when you're typically targeted. Indicator of big boom plays, and those are the type of games that get receivers, 7 catches, 20 yards when they get in those deep ADOTs. So Davante, and then sprinkle on a little bit of Amon-Ra St. Brown, depending on if he can play or not. But if he's on the field, I'll go with Davante. I just really, this rib injury really scares me, but the matchup's too good. So, especially because, missing Hunter Renfrow still and Darren Waller. Well, Renfrow's on the IR now, so is Waller. So they're missing those 2. So, if Adams is out there, to me, he's going to get his workload, and which is what he wants. More targets, even though he's top 10 in every kind of target category, target share, routes run, every single category that goes towards target share in fantasy, the dude's top 10 in all of them and wants more targets. He's top 5 in most of them and wants more targets. It's crazy. So give that man the football, let him do his thing. Just tape the hell out of that rib cage. So, all right, let's move over to tight end.
Put that flak jacket on him.
Yeah, give him. Yeah, remember you used to put that on Madden? Your QB look real fat. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Move over to tight end position. Let's see. What do you got?
Yeah. So give me George Kittle. I'm looking at what he's done so far this year, and he's actually, as a season, has underperformed. However, he has two matchups that he's already played against bottom half of the league in defenses against tight ends.
Mhm.
Finished as the tight end 5 against Atlanta, and finished as the tight end 1 against Kansas City. He has now another opportunity against the Arizona Cardinals, who are bottom 3 in the league against the tight end position.
Yep.
So I think George Kittle is definitely due. And actually, George Kittle would not surprise me looking at his schedule for the rest of the year. Wouldn't surprise me if he went on an absolute tear. If you have George Kittle in your prime for the fantasy playoffs, I would be so fucking excited to just watch this man destroy my opponents for the rest of the season.
Yep. And I'm glad you mentioned that's another topic we're going to do here in the upcoming show this week or next week, is we're going to get into who we think should be, who you should be focused on, and who has good matchups going into it and who has bad matchups. So you can best kind of prepare on start sits and stuff like that based on the top guys. But yeah, so that's something I want to dive into with them on a show in the future, is in the near future, is trying to go over fantasy playoff matchups and who's in the best situation, who's in the worst. Okay, so mine, Travis Kelce. Kelsey's tight end 1 fantasy points per game. 24.3% target share, 22.5% air yard share, 5th in deep targets, 1st in red zone targets. Like, the dude has everything that you need out of a top fantasy tight end. I mean, all the workload's there, the talent's there. That man doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't drop the ball. He's as sure-handed as they get. And when you're getting a 20, nearly 25% target share on a team like Kansas City, where they're spreading the ball out, that's very telling. And I think this week in particular, there's going to be a lot of fantasy points scored on Kansas City's side. Again, I want to root for the Chargers as much as possible, but I just don't think they're quite there just with their injury situation. We don't know if Keenan Allen's even a go yet, or Mike Williams. I think all intents that everything's indicating that, yeah, Keenan Allen said mid this week that he's feeling good and he wants to go, but it's going to be up to the team. So we'll see. I don't know if there's been any updates on him, but Mike Williams, and even when they get out there, even with Keenan Allen out there, right, he's still just going to get in a rhythm. We know what Keenan Allen is. He's going to get out there. He's going to get the most important stat in fantasy, the first down targets. And Mike Williams is going to be the big boom type of player, where he's going to be getting the deeper A dots and the explosive plays. And Keenan Allen's going to be a PPR nightmare and just get catch after catch after catch, target after target. So
yeah, so I'm looking at it here. Keenan Allen is expected to play against the Chiefs as of 4 hours ago.
Okay. So yeah, they're both a go. It's just a matter of to what extent, and are they on a snap count? That we don't know. We'll know when they play the game, but we don't know if they're on a snap count or anything, if they're trying to limit them. But I doubt it, because the Chargers need to win, and it's a tough matchup this week. So, Kelce, I think this is going to get into a battle of scoring. It's just going to turn into a little bit of a shootout, and I think Kelce's going to get a lot of targets, and I venture to guess he's going to get a couple touchdowns. So, all right, that is it for our weekly top score predictions. I guess we'll call it that. Next, we're gonna move on to our weekly streamer of the week. Martin, who is your streamer of the week?
So this is a guy that I didn't realize he was that rostered as much. He's only started in 43% of leagues.
That's fine.
So
That's
yeah.
we know
Uh,
it's he's probably been picked up maybe potentially for waiver streams. So
right, right. Give me Daniel Jones against the Detroit Lions. He's the QB 16 on the season. He's done his thing, against bad defenses here. I'm just looking, right?
yep.
He played Chicago and their defense, right? He
Mhm.
finished with 21 fantasy points. Played Jacksonville, finished with 28 fantasy points. Played Houston last week, finished with 18. So you've seen these pieces where he's very viable. So if you got like Tom Brady or Geno Smith, they're on bye weeks this week, right?
Mhm.
Fire up Daniel Jones. Why not? Detroit is a bad defense, and we've seen what Daniel Jones is capable of against bad defenses. Daniel Jones rushes the ball consistently at least 5-6 times, sometimes upwards of 10 and 11 times. He has 2 games over 75 yards rushing this season. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns. So there is that sneaky rushing potential there as well.
Yep.
If Detroit doesn't throw a little QB spy on him every now and then, he could catch them dishonest and really make them pay. So that's who I'm rolling with this week. Give me Daniel Jones and the Giants as a whole against Detroit.
And before I get into mine, we have one question. Kenny
Actually,
in
I
the
think we have
chat.
2.
Oh yeah, we do actually. Yeah. First one. Njoku on the bench with likely in case he gets injured again. Andrews.
Well, that's from he asked a trade question earlier. He said, "Would
Where
you
was that
trade
at?
Mark
Oh,
Andrews
I got it.
for
For
Deontay
Foreman.
Foreman and Devontae Smith?" And then he's following up with, "I've gotten David Njoku on the bench with Isaiah Likely in case he gets hurt again."
No, to me right now, Foreman is a sell candidate, not a buy.
Okay.
That's in my opinion. And Devontae Smith to me is very inconsistent. I'm not trading Mark Andrews. It's I mean, I know you got Njoku, but Mark Andrews is a top 4 fantasy tight end. So and again, I think Foreman is more of a sell candidate than he is a buy. So I'm sticking with Andrews.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. Yeah, and Mark Andrews is, to me, he's a top 2 tight end when he's healthy. Especially with everything that Baltimore offense has going on. They don't have anyone to throw to. Mark Andrews and Lamar, they've been together since their rookie seasons. They have great chemistry. We've seen great performances from both of them when they're playing together. So Devontae Smith, I know he had a good game last week, but AJ Brown rolled his ankle. He was pretty much ineffective all night. This is still AJ Brown's receiving room, and that's actually going to bridge us perfectly into this next one. I do like Foreman. I'm a little bit higher on Foreman than you are, Justin. However, at the price of Mark Andrews, I'm still going no.
Don't get me wrong. I love Foreman. I have Foreman in my redraft league.
Yeah.
However, right now, I feel like his value's at its peak, and I've been trying to sell him all week. But unfortunately, my redraft league, nobody's checking their trades. Nobody's willing to make a trade. Nobody's made a trade all season. So it's not really working out for me. But I was trying to get rid of him. I was trying to package him and D-Hop together to get like a Saquon and then kind of like a wide receiver 3 territory type of guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just to me, and I'm a big proponent of having the best player, getting the best player in the trade, unless you're in a dynasty league and it's draft picks and stuff like that. Yeah, Mark Andrews all day. Cool. So next question: start 1 full PPR, Devontae Smith or George Pickens? Thoughts?
So he says he's already starting AJ Brown. We just talked about
Yeah.
Devontae Smith and how inconsistent he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen George Pickens become Kenny Pickett's favorite target. So
Yep.
give me George Pickens going up against Cincinnati. It's not a terrible matchup. It's not like an elite matchup, but it's not bad. From week 3 to week 7, he was averaging around 7 targets. He's doing good. He only has 1 touchdown on the season, so I would like to see him score. We can't really use his first game against Cincinnati because that was his very first game as an NFL player. So,
Yep.
like, I don't really want to use that as reference. However, George Pickens is on the field 3 quarters, 4/5 of the game. So is what it is. But yeah, give me George Pickens over Devontae Smith.
Now, this one is interesting for me because on one breath, I do know that Pickens is a huge target for Pickett. When I say those together, I always mix them up. There's also Deontay Johnson there. And is AJ Brown a full go?
Yes.
Like, is he limited? He's nursing that injury, right? I'm almost a light lean towards
AJ
Pickens.
Brown practiced in full on Friday. He's a go.
All right, so I'm gonna be a light lean towards Pickens then. Pickens better matchup. It's just a matter of what it looks like with Devontae Smith's targets now that Goddard's out. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So I do think there's a lot more upside in Devontae. So again, I this is the same situation I had with the Kmet and Higbee last week argument or discussion. I said Higbee had the higher floor, and I said Kmet had the higher ceiling. Kmet ended up with 25. Higbee ended up with 15. I think this is very similar. Give me Pickens with a higher floor, but give me Devontae with a potential bust type of situation where he completely just goes off.
Yeah.
But if you're in a win now situation, a must win situation, I would probably go with Pickens. If you're in a situation where you're kind of locked into a good playoff spot and a good positioning, fire up Devontae, see what he can go out there and do for you as far as and get you some in case you're anything's determined by your total points or anything like that, go out there and fire up Devontae Smith. But yeah, Pickens has the higher floor to me.
Yeah. Okay. Next question here. Thoughts on OBJ for fantasy once he's back? Solid wide receiver 2 or up and down wide receiver 3? I'd like to see what team he signs for.
Situation dependent. Yep.
Yeah. Because I saw notification said he's going to be visiting Dallas and the
Cowboys, right?
After Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
So 1, he's got to sign to a team. So we got to know what situation he's going to. 2, the answer to that is going to be very dependent on who his quarterback is, right? Could have Daniel Jones, who, I mean, I just touched on him doing good stuff. That not a lot of competition in that receiving room. Or he could be going to Dak Prescott, who throws the ball a lot further downfield, and in my opinion, a lot more accurate as well. So could be. For fantasy, I would prefer him to go to Dallas, by the way. If you have, here's the deal, right? A lot of leagues, the default like trade deadlines are this week. So after this week, you can't make trades anymore. So if you're an aspiring businessman or woman like myself, I'm picking him up. And I'm seeing what I can get for him from some people who really like the prospect of him going somewhere.
Yeah.
Go trade a free agent for capital, actual capital. You know what I mean? Or if you have a bench spot and you want to stash him and see where he goes, great. Absolutely. You can do that too.
Yep.
At this point, I'm not sure I'm dropping anybody unless you have like AJ Dillon or something, who's just been shitting the bed every single week all season long, sure, drop one of them. But yeah, I'm picking him up, and I'm going to see what I can get for him before this week is over.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's very situational dependent. It's interesting that CeeDee Lamb had the game he did last week, and the Cowboys still have interest in Odell Beckham. But to me, he's a wide receiver 3. I think that's going to be his cap. Especially if he goes to Dallas, it's even more so wide receiver 3 flex territory, because again, the way they run that offense is very controlled. Whole lot of running the football, controlling the clock, controlling the game with their defense. And they want to run the ball. Again, we saw him get away from that last week at the Packers, and what happened? They ended up losing. So if he comes in there, I don't know how many targets are going to be there for him. He's going to be coming in late in the season. He's going to have to build that rapport basically over throughout the fantasy playoffs almost, So, CeeDee Lamb's the guy there, but there's also a lot of trust in Tony Pollard. Where does OBJ fit in there? To me, I think he's going to end up being a low end wide receiver 3 flex spot type of guy. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it, especially since the Cowboys seem to have the most interest. But that's also it's interesting. It's also going to affect CeeDee Lamb's fantasy value. So that's an interesting situation to watch there in Dallas.
Okay. While Justin fixes his background there.
Gunner ran over my light yesterday, and so now I'm having all kinds of issues keeping.
I got you. Yeah, while Justin fixes his light there, I'll go ahead and I'll start the next question here. Mr. Chris, Brian Robinson or George Pickens in the flex? I like Brian Robinson a lot this week. We touched on it earlier. I just talked about George Pickens. I do like him. However, Brian Robinson is not relying on Kenny Pickett to throw him the football. And with the volume that Brian Robinson got last week in a successful victory against a tough opponent, I'm looking for Washington to just say, hey, that worked. Let's continue to do that. So give me Brian Robinson in the flex there.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Brian Robinson as well. Again, great matchup. We kind of broke down the Brian Robinson numbers earlier as far as the backfield goes. Antonio Gibson and him very much have their pros and cons from both sides, but it's a pretty even split as far as like red zone touches. I think it was 5-3 versus red zone touches last week. Gibson's getting more of the third down work, but Brian Robinson's getting more of the 2-minute drill. So, yeah, great matchup this week. I'm firing up Brian Robinson.
Yes. All right. Brady, sit one. All right. So normally we have to pick one. You got to sit one this time. Full PPR, James Robinson, Cordero Patterson, Jamal Williams, Devontae Smith, DJ Moore, or Rondale Moore.
So James Robinson, Cordero, Jamal Williams, Devontae Smith, DJ Moore, Rondale Moore. The DJ Moore, man, he's such a wild card to me because part of me wants to say DJ Moore, but I think I'm going to go because DJ Moore could go off or he could do nothing.
Right.
But I think I'm going to bench in this situation. I think I'm going to sit Rondale or J-Rob. I'm going to sit Rondale.
Yeah. So, because I saw this question pop up and I've been thinking about it before we got to it.
I didn't see it. Damn
it. If Marquise Brown does get activated and he's playing, I'm sitting Rondale. No questions asked. If he's not, if Hollywood Brown isn't playing, I'm between James Robinson and DJ Moore as well. I'm picking DJ Moore.
Okay.
I understand he could go for 27 in any week, but he could also get you 3. So
The problem
Uh,
with him is he's in a great matchup. Like he's in a great matchup, but like we don't trust the Panthers quarterback situation.
right,
Like
right.
so you would normally be like fire up DJ Moore, no issues, but like it's a matter of what PJ Walker are we going to get? Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to gauge. Very boomer bust type of situation there, and with him. But yeah, I feel more comfortable sitting Rondale or J Rob.
How crazy is it that the player I'm most confident in out of all those guys is Jamal Williams?
That's tough. That's really tough. I was
That,
thinking the same
but
thing.
like, is it wrong? Like, James
Mm,
Robinson is going up against the Patriots. Like we saw what the Patriots did to the Jets last time.
No,
Cordero Patterson has one game back since injury, and he didn't do shit in that one game back.
I think I'm a
Devontae
little higher
Smith,
in Devontae.
Devontae Smith is highly inconsistent, as we have. That was literally the topic for like the last 5 minutes.
Yeah,
We just talked about DJ Moore, and Rondell Moore is contingent on whether the better wide receiver is back.
Yep.
So Jamal Williams, he's kind of, I mean, he's really carved out a consistent role for himself in Detroit. And you got to respect it.
And as we alluded to earlier, he's in a great matchup today.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, again, Devontae, upsides there. Interesting situation with Goddard being out, see what kind of target share he's going to get. But yeah, it's Jamal and Devontae are my two favorites there out in that situation, clearly,
Mhm.
without question. Okay, so the next one we got is Cordero Patterson or Kenyon Drake.
Ew. Give me Cordero Patterson. I hate Kenyon Drake.
I'm firing up Cordero Patterson. He's in a fantastic matchup. For some
Yeah.
reason, they love to give him the ball in the red zone.
Yeah.
Let the other guys do the work and fire him up the ball in the red zone, which to me is a very it's tough when that's what you're relying on. But we know Cordero Patterson's talent is there. It looks like they're willing to ride the hot hand in Atlanta. So if Cordero Patterson can get some touches and really get something going, the upside is there for them to kind of ride that hot hand with him. Kenyon Drake, on the other hand, Baltimore's backfield, man. I hate Baltimore's backfield. Just
It's
as
so
in its
hard
entirety.
to predict.
It's like Kansas City's backfield. I hate it. I hate it all. Yeah, give me Cordero.
Yeah, I like Cordero. I'm a lot more confident picking Cordero. I will say, like, Kenyon Drake has the ability to go for 20 points, especially if Gus Edwards is still out. But if Mark Andrews is playing again, they're not going to, like, you got Brian Burns on that defensive line.
Mhm.
I can see a lot more. I can see a lot more Cordero breaking out into space than Kenyon Drake is.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking with Cordero.
All right. I think we're caught up on questions.
I
So
believe so.
appreciate all the questions. If y'all have any more questions, feel free to drop them, man. If you're in here, please, if you're enjoying the stream, please just drop a like. It helps us out a lot with algorithms and stuff like that, and getting people on here so we can answer more questions and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go ahead, since we were in the questions, I'm gonna go ahead and put out that who my streamer of the week was, and it was Isaiah Pacheco. Now, what I like about Pacheco is, of course, he took over the starting role a few weeks back, but now he's really starting to take over the actual snap share, the carries, the whole nine. He ran 16 times for 82 yards last week. Clear lead back on early downs. Again, I love early downs. Their offensive line has been fantastic. And Chargers defensive line, not really nothing really that concerns me at all. But the Chiefs offensive line, I think they're second in the league now. So Chiefs are the heavy favorites, which means they might get out to an early lead and start having to run the football. And they're dealing with injuries all over the field. They got injuries left and right at the receiver position. So the only thing that the only hesitation I have with Pacheco in PPR formats is the lack of passing down work he gets. It's non-existent, which makes sense because he didn't get it at Rutgers either. So I would, I would prefer if he would get more in the passing down situations. But Jarrett McKinnon, of course, is going to be the third down back. Jarrett McKinnon is going to be the 2-minute drill back. But again, I don't think that'll play a factor in this, too much of a factor in this game, because I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get out early. I think their offensive line is far superior to the Chargers defensive line. But when Pacheco's outplaying the next closest guy, 35-24, early downs, 32-11. Again, McKinnon short yardage and third down. So that's where the limitation is a little bit. But if you absolutely have to, Pacheco, can start Pacheco. So that's my streamer of the week. I think he's going to have a really good game. I know I talked to Conrad about it this past week, but he was in a situation where he didn't really need to fire up Pacheco. So again, just because of that limitation in PPR formats. But all right, we got another question in here. So start one: Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Boyd, or Michael Pittman, full PPR.
Before I answer this, I want to know, what does the rest of your receiving core look like if that's who you're trying to figure out? You must have like Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs in your
is this an 8 or 10 team league?
No kidding. With that being said, I'd like to break down each of these. Well, the one I'm not starting is Deontay Johnson.
Correct. I don't like Deontay Johnson. You know that.
Kenny Pickett's just not it. Like maybe he will be if he develops and stuff like that, but like right now, he's not. As long as Jamar Chase is out, Tyler Boyd is a great option. As long as Matt Ryan is quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, Michael Pittman is a great option. Amon-Ra is his wide receiver 1 10-man league. Okay, got it.
I love me some Amon-Ra, baby.
And with Mike Williams coming back, as long as he's fully healthy, another great option. So it kind of comes down to the matchups here, right? I'm just kind of walking it through my thought process here.
Boyd's got the better matchup.
Boyd has a tremendous matchup against Pittsburgh. Michael Pittman, I'm going to say no to just because he's playing the Eagles in that top secondary. So I'm between Tyler Boyd and Mike Williams, because Mike Williams, as you said, I believe the Chargers are going to find themselves down in this game, which is a positive game script for the pass. Especially later in the game, they're going to need to go deeper downfield. That's Mike Williams territory as well. Give me Mike Williams. It's going to be Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd, Pittman, Johnson, in that order.
Give me Tyler Boyd.
Okay. I don't hate it.
I'm with you in the order, just because Tyler and Mike have the better matchups. Pittman, I hate that matchup for him.
Yeah.
But I think Tyler Boyd is just barely squeaks this top spot out. If it wasn't for the matchup, I'd have Pittman as the top guy. But I think Boyd, just especially since Mike Williams is getting back into it, and we're going to have Keenan Allen there, who again, Keenan Allen, he's the first down. He's going to get all the majority of the first down reps. I think he gets 20% or the first down targets, which is a key indicator of fantasy performance. Again, he's a PPR monster. Keenan Allen is. Mike Williams has that upside of just going berserk with his ADOT being so high, because he does get deep targets. He does get explosive plays. But I'm more locked in on Tyler Boyd this week against Pittsburgh. I think the Bengals offense is going to have a fantastic day, and I think Boyd's going to be a big part of that. So yeah, give me Tyler Boyd.
All right. Should we move into our parlays of the week?
Let's do it.
Right before game
also,
time here?
Brandon, thank you for your question, Brandon, and congratulations on having that team. Because
no kidding. Congrats on your fantasy championship this year.
He's like, I'm trying to decide between these 4 top 20 receivers.
Yeah. Oh,
We
real
got
quick. We got a
one more
trade
question. Yeah.
question. Full PPR offering me DK Metcalf for Jeff Wilson. My roster is Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Cordero Patterson, Jeff Wilson, and Mike Evans, Jamal Williams, David. I don't know who David is. But Lazard and Rondale Moore. So you have Eckler and Barkley and Patterson already at running back. Jeff Wilson is going to be in a timeshare with who's the other running back for Miami right now? Not Chase Edmonds. It's who?
Raheem Mostert.
Yes, Raheem Mostert. They just took San Francisco's offense and just put them in Miami, didn't they?
To me, based on need, that's Metcalf.
Yeah. Give me DK Metcalf, because then you're going to be looking at a roster, right, of Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley at your RB 1 and 2, Mike Evans and DK Metcalf at wide receiver 1 and 2.
Yep.
Then you have the deepest options to go for your flex.
Yeah, your flex at running back.
I'm taking the trade.
2 flex spots.
I'm taking the trade. Sell high on Jeff Wilson because he had a great couple weeks.
Yep. I'm with you. Yeah, DK. I'm on the DK side of the trade.
Yep, definitely.
So, all right. Thanks for the question, Steven. Thanks for the question, Brandon. Appreciate it. We'll go ahead and get into our parlays of the week. So I went a little insane with my parlay of the week. Go ahead and give yours out first. I'm going to bring mine up here.
All right. I got to pull mine up.
And we're doing this. We're doing this by Caesar Sportsbook. Everything we do here is off of Caesar Sportsbook.
Yeah. Okay.
Not sponsored.
Yeah. Not a sponsor. Just big fans. Okay. So I got a little 3-leg same game parlay coming out of the Chicago and Atlanta game today. Give me Justin Fields anytime touchdown. He's been on a tear with that lately. And that is it's going to be rushing touchdown. Passing touchdowns do not count towards that if you guys are new to betting. So anytime touchdown for Justin Fields. Give me the under on his passing yards. The line is at 176.5. He has gone over 200 yards once all season. We said that earlier in the show. So give me the under on his passing yards and give me the over on David Montgomery rushing attempts, line set at 17.5. He's been averaging around 15, and that's with Khalil Herbert and Justin Fields both running the ball. Khalil Herbert is now on IR. That line is still pretty close to what he was already averaging. Give me David Montgomery over 17.5.
All right. So stare intently into your eyes. My first one is that if you're really broke and in need of financial assistance parlay. Let's say you're down to your last dollar in your bank account and you're trying to recover your mortgage money for the month. This is the one. All right. Plus 10,000 total.
Pay the rent. Let's go.
Plus 10,000. We're paying rent, guys. So I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I hit on this last week, so I'm going it again. Amon-Ra St. Brown over 7.5 receptions. First down touchdown score in the Detroit game. Jamal Williams. Daniel Jones total rushing attempts under 6.5.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley total rushing yards over 100.5. So that is my completely broke parlay. And then my less broke, but I still want to win a lot of money parlay. Take out the Jamal Williams touchdown score. So then it goes to Amon-Ra St. Brown over 7.5 receptions. Daniel Jones rushing attempts under 6.5. Saquon Barkley total rushing yards over 100.5. So.
All right.
One more question. Foreman or Kenyon Drake?
They're playing each other. Give me
Yeah,
Deontay
I know, right?
Foreman.
Huh?
Give me Deontay Foreman.
Oh, man. Yeah, I just think the opportunity there for him is too much. Yeah, I'm going Foreman.
Give me Foreman. Don't be surprised if Drake makes me look like a complete idiot.
Yeah, but Foreman can also get 35 carries.
Exactly.
So,
So as far as confidence level goes, give me Deontay Foreman.
so all right. I think we're all caught up on questions there. We got about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
To let everybody go fit their fantasy.
Did you have another parlay?
That was both of them. So I had the first one, I believe. I think my other one was the same. Yeah, the second one, the 3-leg, was the same without the Jamal Williams first touchdown score.
Got it.
So,
okay.
All right. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. Cheney, you want to give a parting word for the fans and everybody who watched and asked questions? We appreciate y'all. If you would like to drop a like if you enjoyed the content, or subscribe. We're here every Sunday, 2 hours before the game, and I'm going to start putting out weekly content, fantasy content during the week as well. So be on the lookout for that coming up. So, Cheney, do you got anything to say?
Absolutely. And you took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you all for watching this week, episode 5 of the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast. We're starting to get a little more of a structure rolling with the segments, the start sits, the questions rolling in. I absolutely love it. If you guys did enjoy the content, make sure to go ahead and drop a like on the video. If you want to see more content like this coming at you every week, and then supplemental content throughout the week, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell notification or bell icon to make sure you get notified when all Cheesy Corn content is released. Back to you, Justin.
Yep. We'll call this episode Attack of the Lights. I was attacked twice by my lights. I will mitigate that situation, as my dog has ruined my setup this morning. So, but yeah, so thanks everybody again for watching. Tune in next week, same time, 9 o'clock Pacific. What is that? 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern.
So it's
we'll
9
be live
Mountain Standard, actually.
Mountain
It's
Standard
8 o'clock
time.
Pacific.
Time zones. So we'll be back here next week doing the same thing. So yeah, everybody go get your lineups in place, go get your bets hit, and we are out. Let's play the outro.
Thanks for checking out the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss an episode. For more information or to connect with Justin and Martin, check out Cheesy Corn Sports on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll see you next time on Cheesy Corn Sports.
Go for A-Rob. Peace.